folks, we will call the meeting to order, please. Councillor Jones, I believe that you have the moment of reflection.
I do, thank you. Please join me in a moment of reflection. May we cherish and protect the freedom and peace that we enjoy in Clarington. May we be mindful of the cost of freedom and peace. May our deliberations be respectful, and may our decisions be informed and wise. May our work be focused on and lead us toward the betterment of our communities.
Thank you, Councillor. I believe you have the land acknowledgement statement as well.
The municipality of Clarington is situated within the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas and the Chippewas of the Anishinaabe, known today as the Williams Treaties First Nations. Our work on these lands acknowledges their resilience and their long-standing contributions to the area, now known as the municipality of Clarington.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have any declarations of interest? Not hearing anything, and I don't see any hands up, so we'll move on.
I have one, sir.
Councillor Neal.
I'm ZBA 2021-004 as it relates to my law practice.
Do you have an item number, Councillor Neal?
No. It's a part lot control bylaw. I think it's 15-12.
Great, thank you, Councillor. And the clerk confirms that. Okay. Anything further? Seeing none, we'll move ahead. Councillor Jones, announcements.
No announcements.
Councillor Neal.
No announcements.
Councillor Trail.
No announcements.
Councillor Shore.
No announcements.
Councillor Anderson.
No announcements.
Councillor Hooper.
Well, I hate to disappoint everybody, but I have a couple.
We'd be disappointed if you didn't, sir.
Okay, I'd just like to pay tribute and wish a happy birthday to a longtime resident of Ward 3 and now living in Ward 2, and one of our inductees into the Sports Hall of Fame. Mrs. Jean Devitt turns 100 years young tomorrow. And I would like to wish her a special happy birthday and thank her and her husband for all that they've done for youth hockey in Clarington, Bowmanville at the time. They were very involved in youth hockey way back when, and I just want to say best wishes to her. And I understand they had a little bit of a sort of a drive-by yesterday, and I think there's another one tomorrow morning too as well. And the other one I have is I just wanted to say yesterday I had the privilege and opportunity to attend a virtual event in honor of Black History Month and hosted by the Whitby Public Library. This event was a discussion showcasing youth, and I was very pleased to represent Clarington in our diversity committee. Also on the call was Chair Henry, Mayor Mitchell from the town of Whitby, and MP Mark Holland. We had the opportunity to listen to the youth viewpoints in regards to jobs and their future. This event was entitled Beyond 2020, a roadmap to reshaping and inventing our new reality. And it basically involved the youth in a panel discussion, and I was very, very impressed with the youth that were sitting at that table and discussing things yesterday. We're in very good hands coming up for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I have one announcement, and that is Saturday at 10:30 in the morning near Sunderland. For anyone who wants further information, I'll get details, but there will be I don't know how to describe it, I suppose a drive-by service for the late Mayor Bath Haddon of Brock. So anyone who wants further details, if they get in touch with my office, we'll be happy to do that. Once again, our thoughts and condolences go out to her friends, family, and to the community. And with that, Councillor Trail, I'll go over to you for minutes of previous meetings.
Okay, I don't have that. I can't find that in the email. So I would like to move the minutes of a regular council meeting dated February 6, 2021.
So there'd be two, one held on February 8th, 2021.
Oh,
and the special
sorry, I
meeting,
can't read that.
That's
Sorry, I
all
thought it
right.
said 6.
And the special meeting of
Alrighty, so I'll
council
move the minutes
on Feb 11th.
February 11th.
Right.
Okay, got it. So I'll move the first one. I'll just need a seconder.
I think we can do both together, Councillor.
I second
Can I do
that,
both? Okay.
Councillor Trio.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Thank you. Do we have any questions, comments, errors, or omissions? Councillor Neal?
Yeah, just curious, how is it that Councillor Trail has never progressed beyond moving the minutes, given her long-standing service? I'm just wondering how it's decided who moves what motion here.
We've got the minutes. If you want to follow up with the clerk, but we've got the minutes on the floor.
Okay, I'll raise it later in the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. So the minutes are on the floor. Do we have questions, comments, errors, or omissions? Call the question. All in support, please say yes.
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 Opposed, if any, please say no. And those are carried. Thank you. We don't have any presentations. We don't have any delegations, nor do we have communications for information. That takes us to item 10, which are communications for direction. Councillor Schwartz, I believe you have those.
Not sure I do, but I will move that communications items 10.1, 10.2, and 10.3 be referred as per the agenda.
Perfect. We have a seconder for that? Seconder on the communications for direction. Councillor Anderson, would you thank you very much? I know your colleague was looking for that. Do we have any polls on 10.1, 10.2, or 10.3? Councillor Anderson, are you pulling that, or is your hand up for the second?
I'm trying to get the hand down that it's not already.
Understand. I truly do. I'll call the question on the communications for direction. All in support, please say yes.
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 Opposed, if any, please say no. And those are carried. Thank you. This takes us into section 11, the advisory committee reports. Councillor Neal, I believe you have those.
Moving it.
We have a seconder on the advisory committee reports. Councillor Hooper, thank you. Any polls? Councillor Jones.
No, my hand was still up.
Nope.
Sorry.
Right. I'll call the question on the committee reports. All in support, please say yes.
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 Opposed, if any, please say no. Those are carried. Thank you. Councillor Jones, I believe you've got item 11.2. That's the General Government Committee report.
I do.
And would you give us a motion that I've got it?
I have it here.
Perfect.
I would move it. I would need a seconder that the recommendations contained in the General Government Committee report of February 16th, 2021 be approved on consent.
Thank you. And I see Councillor Trail is seconding that. Do we have any polls on that report? Councillor Neal.
Number 15, please.
Councillor Trail.
I'm having some trouble getting it to load, but can I pull the chicken one? I'm not sure if that's number 15 or I can't see which one it is that Councillor Neal moved. But if it's not that, I'd like to pull the one for the report on backyard chickens.
I don't know that it would have made it. Hang on for 1 second on here because it didn't get passed.
Oh, right. So I can't pull it.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
Okay.
that's correct. There's nothing.
Thank you.
All right. So I'll call the question on the balance with the exception of 15. All in support, please say yes.
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 Opposed, if any, please say no. Those are carried. Item 15, Councillor Neal.
Yeah, I'll move it as written. I have some questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, do we have a second?
So this is
Hang on
cost to
one sec.
improve.
Wait a sec, Councillor Jones. You're good to second that?
I'll second.
Councillor Jones? I just need a seconder to get it on the floor, that's all.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Anderson. Go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Through you to Mr. Brake, what would be your expected date to report back, I assume, to General Government Committee on this?
Through the chair, if it's not the next round of GGC in March 29th, I think it is, it will be the one following.
Okay, so I'm sort of hopeful that this will, if we move ahead with this, it'll be, before so that people can enjoy it over the summer. So that's all. So, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything further on that item? Call the question. All in support, please say yes.
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 Opposed, if any, please say no. And that is carried. Thank you. That takes us to the Planning and Development meeting. Councillor Anderson, I believe you have that.
Yes, sir. I'll move that the Planning and Development Committee meeting of February 22nd be approved.
All right. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hooper, thank you. Do we have any polls on that agenda? Councillor George.
Thank you. I'd like to pull in item 5 for a recorded vote. Thank you.
All right. Councillor Jones.
I would like to pull number 9.
And Councillor Neal.
Mr. Chair, I think I want to pull one, I think it's 1B. Sorry, bear with me a second. Bear with me. Uh, 1C.
1C, like Charlie?
Yes, please.
All righty. Okay, so Councillor Ward, item 5, you wanted to pull that simply for a recorded vote?
That's correct.
Okay, so, oh, you know what? I haven't called the question on the balance. I'll do that first. So on the balance, all in support, please say yes.
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 Opposed, if any, please say no. That is carried. On item 5, you're moving that, Councillor Zwart?
Move as written.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Questions, comments? Councillor Neal?
Yeah, I was going to move to, first, I was going to move to divide 7.5 from the balance. Bring in a seconder.
That's 7.5 out of the climate action plan, correct?
Yep.
Okay, give us a second to get there. Okay, so that would be, bear with me. That is page 103 of the PDF, the Planning and Development. Okay, you're seconding that, Councillor Jones?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Yeah, it's 7.5 on page 103. Bear with us. The church will bring, the clerk will bring that up. have the right agenda? Oh. Bear with us. I've got the one. Oh, I've got the one that's on there. It's the original. So as a clerk, well, hang on. I guess we need to see. Does everyone have that in their agenda to see what we're voting on separating? That's
No, I don't have it in my
okay,
agenda.
perfect. The clerk has it. And so my apologies, page 122 of the PDF. Okay, so on the motion to divide, I'll call the question. All in support, please say yes.
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 Opposed, if any, please say no.
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 Okay, I'll go around the table. Councillor Anderson?
No.
Councillor Hooper?
No.
Councillor Jones?
Yes.
Councillor Neal?
Yes.
Councillor Trail?
Yes.
Councillor Schwartz?
No.
And that motion fails. So we have the corporate climate change action plan in front of us. Questions or comments? Councillor Neal?
I think I still have the floor, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
So a couple of comments, and I fully expect I'll be in the minority on this one. But first of all, there's not any numbers in this report. There's so if you go through it under estimated costs, there's single dollar signs, there's double dollar signs, and there's triple dollar signs and quadruple dollar signs. I'm not sure what all that means, but I assume that means there's going to be a price tag associated with this. And I'm certainly concerned about what the global cost of this could be versus the expected benefit. A couple of things I wanted to point out. First of all, action number 1.32, it says complete the conversion of outdoor lighting in parks and streetlights to energy efficient LEDs. I'm assuming that's supposed to say complete the conversion. So that might be corrected. But a little bit of history on that one. It's about, I think it was 3 years ago, we presented a business case to, you see it says complete the conversation. I think that should say conversion, but we were presented with a business case for spending, I think, $3 million on converting all the streetlights to LEDs. And the business case was we would have energy savings, which would more than pay for the capital costs. And it turns out that we haven't realized those savings because Hydro One isn't lowering the energy bill for the streetlights. So we're realizing no savings. The business case, in fact, wasn't correct. Yet that's what we were presented with. So I just want to point that out, that sometimes, when you delve into the facts a bit, it doesn't really bear out what's in some of these reports. I voiced my opposition to this 7.5, which is the stormwater fee. So what I see is we're going to add probably, again, at a time when stores are struggling, bigger stores are struggling to compete with the likes of the Amazon, who have no bricks and mortar in Clarington, yet our stores have to compete. They've had a difficult time. And this is laying the groundwork for another tax, which is just, to me, it's a tax grab to under the guise of climate change. But this stormwater fee has been around for a long time, and it's really just a revenue generator for some municipalities that have bought into it. And I'm adamantly opposed to that. I certainly wouldn't want to see any of our businesses burdened with this or saddled with this. And I'm sure that if this is ever adopted, it'll lay we'll need a staff member to administer it. So there'll be another staff member added to administer this program, which is totally unnecessary. And stormwater is something that we're already built into our development site plan, so I'm not even sure what that's going to accomplish. So, just one little anecdote, I guess. It was presented to us at the committee meeting that I think the one presenter from Whitby said that climate change was causing Jakarta to sink. And I did some research into that. In fact, it appears it's really just pumping out aquifers that's causing that to happen. So the reason I bring that up is I think there's a lot of, don't let the facts get in the way of good story for some of this. So, but that was presented to us as a reason why we should have taxpayers funding a lot of things to save Jakarta, but it's actually what they're doing regarding groundwater that's the issue. So, I'm opposed to all the spending that I see that's going to get built into future budgets. And so, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Neal. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not going to get into the other stuff, but I'm curious about when we convert to LED, why is there no savings recognized? And that's what it's supposed to do. So can someone, I don't know who, if it's Mr. Brake, or please elaborate as to why we're not saving money by doing that?
Mr. Pinn can help you. Mr. Pinn.
Mr. Pinn.
Through the chair, thank you very much. We have been recognizing savings. The budget for streetlights and maintenance has gone down. It has not, to Councillor Neal's comment. We have not been able to recognize as much savings at the moment in our actuals due to an ongoing dispute that we are in with Hydro One. Staff are working on that, and we are hopeful to get that resolved shortly. It is what we have been able to do over the last couple of years is reduce the cost for hydro for the streetlights. Those funds are being used to offset the debenture for the retrofit. And then once we have repaid that, it will be a savings go forth for the municipality. So it's to say we haven't recognized any savings would not be accurate. However, we have not recognized the savings to its fullest potential due to an ongoing dispute with Hydro One that we are working on.
And how do you see that dispute being resolved? Will it be in our favor, which I hopefully should be?
Through the chair, that is how we hope it will go. We do have energy efficient lights, more energy efficient lights, so we should be recognizing the savings. It's just Hydro One has a different process than a Lexicon, being a bigger organization, services more of the province. So we are working our way through it. It's just a matter of timing.
If you will indulge me, Chair, one other question. How much, I don't know if you have a figure for the remainder of the retrofit, the cost involved in retrofitting the entire municipality for LED lighting?
Through the chair, I would have to defer that to Mr. Brake if he has that available. I do not.
Through the chair, I believe we do have sufficient budget to cover all of the existing street lighting conversions, and a contract was recently closed for the retrofit of the parks lighting that will begin this spring, summer to complete that. So that was a capital project from 2020. So there should not be any further funding required.
Oh, one other question, I guess it's to Mr. Pinn. On a cost recovery, how long does it take before we start to realize savings after covering the cost for the retrofit? Do you know what time period before?
Through the chair, I believe what we had done was a 10-year debenture. So we will be paying that off over 10 years. However, Once we get the Hydro 1 savings in, we will start to put those savings into reserve to pay off the debenture as we go forward. So we are actually right now saving more in hydro than what the costs for the debt servicing are. So even without the Hydro 1. So we are recognizing the savings that way.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hooper, your hand was up, but then came down. Okay, we'll move on.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, go ahead.
No, thank you. I'm not sure whether Councillor Zorn wants to continue this discussion. I just have something totally the other way, so I'll wait until this discussion finishes first.
Okay, Councillor Zorn, and I'll come back to you, Councillor Hooper.
Thank you. I wonder if a staff member could address the action item 7.5. Give some context to it. I mean, I get all excited because it mentions permeable pavement, but there's more to it than that.
Mr. Hodge, could you help us with that? Or I see Mr. Pinn's hand up. Go ahead, Mr. Pinn.
I will defer to Mr. Hodge if he wants, although I do have a potential answer. But I'll let Mr. Hodge go first. I didn't see his hand.
Mr. Hodge, if you would, and then Mr. Pinn will come back to you. Mr. Hodge?
Hello, yes. So 7.1 just refers to the exploration of a stormwater management fee and credit program, looking at its potential for, just looking at its potential as an alternative to reduce the demand on the stormwater system. There's been some evidence to show from municipalities who have implemented this sort of initiative that there are cost savings associated with the need to, or the deferring of the need to upgrade stormwater systems, in place of the reductions that happen from reduced stormwater created by this type of initiative and the creation of more permeable surfaces. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pinn, did you have anything to add to that?
Through the chair, this has been a user fee that has been adopted in some municipalities as a result of asset management planning and trying to get a fuller cost recovery for the replacement of the assets. As Councillor Neal mentioned, stormwater management is put in by the developer. In certain circumstances, there may be a development charge portion starting in 2021 for certain stormwater management ponds. However, once it's put in, there is no ongoing revenue from a user fee perspective for that. So it would be borne on the taxpayer on the tax base. What has happened, and I'll try to be short with the theory on this, is that municipalities have looked to a user fee to recover the cost of maintaining the stormwater system and replacing the stormwater system, with the thought being that those organizations or those taxpayers, residential or commercial, that contribute the most to the stormwater flowing through the system. So those with asphalted parking lots, those with roof, larger commercial area, contribute to the water flowing into the stormwater system, and therefore should be the ones paying for the stormwater system rather than certain residential properties where the water may flow into the ground and be absorbed by the ground. So that's the theory behind it. It took a large, a few years ago when the city of Toronto had those massive floods in its downtown core, several municipalities started to look at this as well from a climate change perspective, because the urbanization and the paving over of those types of ground, waterways, wetlands, what have you, does contribute to an increased risk of flooding. I hope that answers your question, Councillor Swart.
Thank you, it does. Thanks you to both of you. Thanks.
Anything further, Councillor Zwart?
No.
Councillor Hooper.
Yeah, my question was just in regards to, I know we had some communication in regards to further, improvement or moving along in the process. And I remember back, maybe one term of council, that there was some significant discussion in regards to, and I think one of the was retrofitting and recommissioning of high priority buildings. For example, the town hall, the Garnaby Ricker complex, Curtis South. There's opportunities there to turn those into sort of, I don't know what, I'm maybe using the wrong term, money generating or sort of offsetting some of the expenses that we're having in regards to GHG and stuff like that. How far along are we on that, or are we still struggling with that? Or I know we were talking one point of putting solar panels, and I just wonder where we are in regards to retrofitting some of our buildings. And I think Mr. Hodges or somebody probably could answer that.
Ms. Langmaid has her hand up, actually.
Ms. Langmaid, sorry.
Through the chair to Councillor Hooper, that is under the energy management plan, and we have been working away on the energy management plan. We have examined some of the buildings that we have and whether we can install solar panels on the roofs. It is on a building by building case, and the actions that are outlined in this climate change action plan will continue in that same process. But we are continuing to work on it. In fact, it is something that is under Mr. Acorn's guidance.
Okay, and I just wondered, how far along are we on that? Like, I know we had a study done on that previously. So do we have any of our buildings that have been sort of utilized for those purposes at all?
Through the chair to Councillor Hooper, I would have to have Mr. Acorn answer that question. And as council has tried to reduce the number of staff attending meetings, Mr. Acorn is not on the line this evening.
Okay, I can get that information from it. Thanks, Ms. Langmaid. Appreciate it. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Anything further on that? So just a couple of comments. We are being televised tonight. So for anyone who's watching, we are not implementing tonight a stormwater management fee. That is something that a report at some point in time will come back to council. And in fact, it is both a fee and a credit program that staff at a future date will be considering. So we're not implementing that, and we are not hiring staff at this point in time, or perhaps ever, to manage that. But that, along with the costing for the implementation as these things come forward, this council and future councils will be dealing with. Madam Clerk, I believe Councillor Zwart asked for, I'm sorry? Councillor Neal, are you looking for a second time around?
No.
All right, Madam Clerk, I believe a recorded vote was called for.
On the motion, which is item 5 of the Planning and Development Committee report. Get my hands on it right now, but the councillors, beginning with Councillor Zwart.
Did you get that? Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson?
Yes.
Councillor Hooper?
Yes.
Councillor Jones?
Yes.
Councillor Neal?
No.
Councillor Trail?
Yes.
Mayor Foster?
Yes.
And that carries 6-1.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next is item 9, Councillor Jones, Seniors Housing.
I guess I'm asking the best way to do this, but I am moving it. I just want to correct the wording in the motion. Do I move it as it is and amend it? I think it's more just the wording wasn't quite correct. The meaning is still the same.
Okay, so the clerk has a suggestion.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. I actually noticed that last night as well, and because I didn't go to the meeting, I checked. So what we're going to do is put the "and" back in. So it should be that staff be directed to accept a pre-consultation and accept an application. I think that's.
I was thinking that it should read that staff be directed to accept a pre-consultation application for 46 Stevens Road and the Lake Breeze sites, and upon submission, process the applications in the normal course.
Okay, so pre-consultation.
So it was the "except" "and" is deleted, and the "and" is deleted in the next line. Do you want me to read it again?
Yes.
Okay. That staff be directed to accept a pre-consultation application for 46 Stevens Road and the Lake Breeze sites, and upon submission, process the applications in the normal course.
Got it. So we're removing "except" "and."
Correct. And then in the next line after submission, "and." It's just upon submission, well, I guess "and" it could be in there. Submission, process the applications in the normal course.
You're with us. We'll get that up. Councillor Neal, you're seconding that?
Yes.
Okay, give us one moment. Okay, members of council, that motion as amended is in front of you. Questions or comments? Call the question. All in support, please say yes.
Mr. Chair, be a little quick with the. To our director of planning, is that there's a lot of discussion around the wording of this last time. Are you comfortable that this will sort of meet the requirements of the Planning Act for how pre-consultation happens, and then a checklist is issued, and then so I guess that is being directed to Mr. Windle.
Through the chair to Councillor Neal, yes, that direction is fine with me as a matter of course how the pre-consultation process is undertaken. I'm fine with the
thank
language.
you. Yep, thank you.
All right, do we have anything further? Call the question. All in support, please say yes.
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 Opposed, if any, please say no. That is carried. Thank you. The next is item 1C. That was a confidential memo. Are you pulling that and moving that to the end of the meeting, Councillor Neal?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I wonder if we have a second to move that to the end of the meeting in an in-camera session. Looking for a seconder.
Could I, maybe Mr. Chair, before we do that, could I ask a question that I think I can ask in open session, a very vague question, and then
sure. Well,
may not be necessary?
Okay, let's get it on the floor first. I see yes, you're moving it. Councillor Jones is seconding that. Go ahead with a vague question, Councillor Neal.
Okay, so my question is to our solicitor, our lawyer, is there any update that we should hear at this time? It's kind of a yes or no answer.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there's no material change to update council at this time, no.
Okay, I don't think we need to go into closed session on this.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Anything further on that? Call the question. All in support, please say yes.
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 Opposed, if any, please say no. That is carried. We don't have any staff reports under section 12. We do have one piece of business arising from a procedural notice of motion. And That is a motion to amend something previously adopted, which is the civil marriage ceremonies. I believe that is yours, Councillor Jones.
Yes, it is. If I could just briefly speak to it, that as you may recall, that this came up last year, I believe, with the budget, and we decided at that time to contract the marriage ceremonies out. And a lot of that, from my point, that we made that decision because the clerk's department was very, very busy at the time. I know they are busy now as well, but since the reorg has changed the makeup of that department, and now there's legislative services, a lot of the roles have changed in the clerk's department now. And in speaking with the staff, it sounds like this is something that it might be the right time to bring back more for our staff to do the ceremonies. But if they were busy at the time, they could then use a contracted out only for certain times. But basically, our staff would be doing most of the civil marriage ceremonies again. That's what I would like to change that back to. And a couple of my reasons and why I'm thinking that is, number one, because with the reorg, I think it's there might be more time now for the clerk to be able to do that. But as well as, I think it's an opportunity for us to maybe maximize some of the revenue that we are possibly losing there, because we are only, because with the contracting out, that we're not making the same money. So I think right now we can use every dollar we can get, and I think that this is maybe a good opportunity to do that. Some of the other reasons are that as we encourage marriages to happen at Town Hall, we are also then bringing families together in Clarington, where they may want to go to a restaurant after the ceremony and use some of our local businesses to increase the economic development there and to help our small local businesses to get through these times. And also the fact that there's been a lot of marriages and wedding ceremonies that have had to be put on hold because of COVID, and they're not able to have the big ceremonies anymore. And I think it's a nice option for people to be able to come to Town Hall and get married there. And we actually might see an increase in ceremonies held at Town Hall. And that's also why I'm thinking that it might be an opportunity for us to increase that revenue. So I have spoken, like I said, I have spoken with staff. They are in favor of this. And I was happy that Councillor Zwart wanted to second the motion. And I'd be very interested to hear what some of my fellow councillors are thinking along this line as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Anderson and then Councillor Neal.
Thank you, Chair. Very well said by Councillor Jones. I was just wondering if she had a motion, I would gladly second it, but she said Councillor Swart is doing that. So those are my comments, really. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Neal.
Well, one of the concerns I had, or a couple of concerns, and that's why I supported the motion last year, was always hearing about how we're understaffed. So to me, this was like not one of our core services. And there's a number of, for example, outstanding reports that have been in the clerk's department, legislative services, whatever you want to call it now, and they've been sitting there for several years with no movement. So I'm thinking specifically of the agricultural uses policy, which is, I think, important. So I get concerned when I hear, we need to provide this service, which is not really part of our core service, yet what is our core service sometimes is always in the back burner. So I brought up an issue a couple of weeks ago about signage. The response was, we're too busy with other things to worry about that. I'm not sure, I didn't really follow it up, but so I guess I wonder how much real staff time this does take up. So, during the day, for example, does it take a couple hours of staff time? So So that's my concern. I mean, I'm not sure other councillors feel, but I think, you know, we seem to let some of our core things go a bit, you know. So I just use that as an example, the agricultural uses policy. So there was I think a public meeting on it probably about a year and a half ago. Haven't heard a word about it since. So I'm just wondering why the big focus on marriages, yet important things like that seem to sit sort of not moving, you know, along the process. So that's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hooper.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, sorry. And thank you to Councillor Jones for recognizing the value of the service. And from one who did not support the previous motion, I think this is, there was nothing really wrong with what we were doing before. It wasn't broken. So I just thank you for bringing this forward for all the right reasons.
Thank you, Councillor Hooper. Do you have anything further? So I'm going to echo Councillor Hooper's words. I thought it was a good thing when we did it before. Wasn't supportive when we stopped doing this. A little bit of history. When this was first introduced, staff anticipated that there would be a handful of marriages here in the town hall. It has proven to be a very popular bit that Clarington does on behalf of residents and others as well. So glad to see it back. I know that the clerk's department will be happy to see it back. It is one of the fun things, the happy things that they get to do. So, Councillor Jones, thank you for bringing it back. I am delighted to see this, and I know that there are a lot of other people delighted as well. With that, I will call the question. All in support, please say yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Opposed, if any, please say no. And that is carried. Thank you. The next item is on page 89. That is Wilmot Creek. This was referred from GG. That's a referral, so I would need a motion on this.
Number one, can I move to divide just the wheelhouse request for the location from the balance, please?
Oh, hang on for 1 second, somebody. Yeah. Okay, so Councillor Terrell, why don't you give me a motion to get it on the floor, and then we'll get the motion to divide.
Sure, thank you. I'll make that motion to put it on the floor.
Okay, do I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. And the motion to divide is to divide out the wheelhouse.
The request, yeah.
So that is the second paragraph of the resolution itself. That the municipality of Clarington supports request that the wheelhouse be used.
Thank you, yes.
Yep, the clerk's got that. Okay.
Now, is there a chance we could...
So hang 1 second. Do we have a seconder on the motion to divide? Councillor Neal, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Trell.
Sure. Is there a chance we could hear from staff on the motion? I know the reason that this was to be pulled tonight was because we might have heard from Dr. Kyle in the interim. Is it possible to do that before we make all of our comments?
So that'd be on the right now. We've got the motion to divide in front of us, so let's deal with that. And I did have a discussion with Dr. Kyle. So on the motion to divide, let's call that question. All in support, please say yes.
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 Opposed,
Yes.
if any, please say no. And that is carried. Thank you. So on the, and we will get to your question, Councillor Trail, on the issue surrounding the portion that's been divided. Councillor Trail?
Oh, no, I have a feeling that this is a request we'll be proceeding with regardless, and that we may not, depending on the information regarding the timing, because I don't believe that unless you've got information from the region on the locations that this has happened. And in fact, I know MPP Parks office has been approached to do this, to request this. So I thought that this would simply strengthen the MPP's request. And of course, all of these come directly from the Wilmot Creek Homeowners Association.
Okay, so I'm unclear as to what you want to do with the portion that's been divided out. Are we simply voting on it as it stands?
Yes, so simply we're voting on whether or not the municipality supports the Wilmot Creek Homeowners Association request that the wheelhouse be used for the administration of the vaccine.
All right, do I have a seconder on that? Councillor Anderson?
Yes, sir.
Chair, I'm confused about what we're doing here. So.
Okay, we're dealing with we voted to divide the paragraph that is highlighted on your screen. We are dealing with the highlighted portion. It is being moved independently. Councillor Trail had noted that she just wanted to put emphasis on this. Councillor Anderson has seconded that. So we are moving.
So is that a standalone motion? No recitals, just a 3-line motion?
Well, no, then we are coming back to, that was divided out, then we are coming back to the main motion.
No, but just so I'm clear, is we're going to vote on what's highlighted in blue just by itself right now?
Correct.
Okay, can I ask if the mover still supports it or not?
I think she said that she wanted it to be highlighted. Councillor Trail, is that correct?
Yes.
But this would appear as a motion without any recitals attached to it.
Well, it's simply separated from the balance of the motion. And again, Councillor Trail indicated the purpose of that was to place emphasis on it.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
So, yeah, I'll have to.
We'll let you wind up, Councillor Trail. I've got Councillor Hooper, Councillor Jones, and then Councillor Anderson on this piece. Councillor Hooper?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I had a conversation with Ms. Park on the weekend, too, in regards to directed by the Dr. Kyle and the Regional Director of Health. And I think there's a plan pretty much in place that goes along with this from my conversation with Ms. Park. So I'm just trying to, wrap my head around this as to, so is this going to be open? The wheelhouse is going to be open for all residents in, say, for example, Newcastle area. Will draw a circle around, and all these people within this circle will be able to go to the Newcastle wheelhouse or the Wilmot Creek wheelhouse, or is it just strictly for the people that live in Wilmot Creek?
Councillor Trail, what's your intent?
It was my understanding this was just for residents in Wilmot Creek. So if necessary, I'm fine with a friendly amendment to clarify that.
That we check with the Regional Director of Health to find out if we can do that. Is this going to interfere with the plan? That's all I'm concerned about.
So, Councillor Trail, we're probably best to amend this to make it clear that only residents of Wilmot Creek would be using.
Yeah. So for the administration of the vaccine to Wilmot Creek residents as part of the rollout. And I'd also like to add in, since we're amending it, that this be circulated to MPP Park's office, obviously.
Okay, and Councillor Anderson, we'll wait for that to come up, but are you good with that amendment?
Yes, I am good with that. That's fine.
Thank you.
Can I speak to it now? No.
Hang on for a second. We'll get it up. Park. All right. So the amendment is that the Wilmot Creek wheelhouse be used for administration of the vaccine as part of phase 1 in Clarington to Wilmot Creek residents only. So that's the amendment. Councillor Trail, your amendment, do you need to speak to that?
No, I don't think so. I just think if there are any other bodies that we should be forwarding it to you. I'm happy to add them here. I don't know if this also should go to Dr. Kyle or whether I also don't want to add to already busy and heavy agendas either with minor requests. So I'll leave it at that. But if any of my colleagues have any recommendations on whether or not this should be forwarded elsewhere, I'm happy to add those in.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson to the amendment.
Yeah, I just wanted to let Councillor Trail know that the province has delegated the medical officer of health, like Dr. Kyle, our regional medical officer of health, they to administer and to look after the vaccine now. So it's not even the province has delegated that responsibility to the local health units. So if anyone it should go to, it should be Dr. Kyle.
Okay, can we make that amendment? We may as well send it to MPP Park as well, since I do know the residents went to her, but also to Dr. Kyle. Or
So I'm going to suggest Dr. Kyle does not agree in the discussion that I had with him. But fair enough. We'll take that as a friendly. Otherwise, we'd be here all night on this. Are you good with that, Councillor Trail?
yes, thank you.
Councillor Anderson?
Recorded vote, please.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Councillor Jones?
Thanks. And I think my questions are along the lines of Councillor Hooper's, and then I think you said that Dr. Kyle is not in favor of that. I just wanted, did MPP Park, did she say that it would be appropriate to have the vaccinations at the Wilmot Creek location? That I'm just a little confused because it's not a very big facility. I could see maybe the benefit if it was like a targeted population. And I'm not sure, I'm not 100% positive they're going to have like a mobile unit that would be going to different places to do the vaccination. So that might be appropriate, but I'm just a little concerned about, endorsing something that maybe we haven't fully thought through the logistics. I mean, I guess, are we endorsing it for someone else to think about the logistics of it? I'm just a little bit confused on what we should be doing when there's already a plan there. I'm happy to support the residents of Wilmot Creek. I want them to get their vaccinations as soon as possible, but I also don't want to interfere with a bigger plan that might be more effective than us saying that it should be done there. I'm not sure if there's anyone who can shed a little light on that for me. Thanks.
Okay, so hold off for a second, Councillor Trail, and you can respond to that when you wrap up. Councillor Hooper? Or I'm sorry, Councillor Jones, is that all you have, or did you?
Well, I'm just wondering if there's any more clarification there. When Councillor Hooper was talking to MPP Park, did she say anything that it might be appropriate, or that she felt that it wouldn't be appropriate? And then I think I saw Mr. Allison's hand go up there. Did he have any further information on that as well? Thanks.
So, Councillor Trail, go ahead and tell us your intent here, if you can answer the intent as best as possible.
Yeah.
And we'll go to Mr. Allison.
Sure. So again, of course, it will be up to the local health unit as to how they're going to administer it. But given that we have 1,600 seniors who currently, I do believe, are at a higher risk, I think that if there is a way to accommodate them by administering it at the pharmacy there, I do understand there are plans in the works with respect to potentially partnering with Shoppers Drug Marts to administer in pharmacies. But anyway, as for the area residents in Ward 3, I have had a few requests that we support this. This has come from the Wilmot Creek Homeowners Association, and it's simply a request. It's certainly by no means do we have the authority or the jurisdiction to demand any kind of, attention in this regard. But I certainly don't think it's going to what shall we say, put a wrench into the wheels of the distribution by simply asking to have it administered at the Wheelhouse Pharmacy or even the Wheelhouse building, which is actually quite large. So I think it's fair to make this request on behalf of the residents when it does have the backing of the Homeowners Association, and ultimately it is within the discretion of the local health unit if they can do this or not. There's no harm in asking. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor, for some clarification, Is it your intent with this that homeowners or residents, I should say, in Wilmot Creek, regardless of their age, that they as a population should be inoculated?
No, it's as per the motion wording that the administration of the vaccine as per the phased rollout.
Phase one. Okay, perfect.
Right. So however they have it phased is how they'll administer. My only request is that rather than asking some of these residents who are in their 80s and 90s to drive to, you know, wherever these vaccination centers will be, as well as potentially putting them at more risk, right? Because they are leaving their homes then and they're going out to these centers. I just think that, you know, this is a request that has been thought about by the homeowners association, and it's their decision and their request. And I don't see that there's any problem with us as the elected representatives locally to support them in that request. All they can do is say is no.
Perfect. Thank you. Mr. Allison?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through the chair to Councillor Jones, her question. I'll just share with Council what we've been asked for from Durham Health in terms of providing a venue for vaccinations. The only request that has come our way has been that we make available space within the Garnet B. Rickard facility. And we have committed that space to allow for vaccinations to take place there. No other request or from Durham Health has been formally sent our way, which isn't to say we couldn't ask for it, but in terms of what's officially out there, what's been officially requested, it's for that one facility and that one facility only.
Councillor Jones, are you good?
Yes, thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Councillor Hooper.
No, I think I'm good. I'm just looking at the most recent Around the Creek February 2021 letter that was in the from the homeowners association and addressed to MPP Park too as well. And at that time, I think it was dated January 13th, 2021, and the response from MPP Park was just more institutional in regards to her response. And so I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing by, you know, by whatever phase, if, you know, the people are going to be inoculated or vaccinated, that, you know, that we're doing the right thing. We're not going against anybody's, you know, plan that they have in regards to how this is going to roll out, because we want to make sure that all of our residents in the right age brackets are being inoculated, you know, correctly. We don't want to put one group ahead of one other group and so on and so forth. So that's all I'm worried about. And I think that they have a very good plan from Dr. Kyle's office and moving forward. So I'm like Councillor Jones, I'm a little confused as to what we're trying to do here.
All right, so we're on the amendment. Councillor Traill, if you want to wrap up.
Sure. So I'm not quite sure what my colleagues are confused about. It's very clear. We're simply asking that whenever the vaccine is administered, that it's done for Wilmot Creek residents at Wilmot Creek. So I don't really understand it, almost as though it's like a deliberate attempt to confuse this. It's written right there. We're simply asking that for Wilmot Creek residents to be vaccinated at Wilmot Creek. We're not reinventing the wheel. I'm not quite sure where it's unclear, but the wording is actually relatively straightforward, nor are there any preambles, which should make Councillor Neal happy. So anyway, again, this is simply to request a location. Record a vote, please.
Thank you, Councillor Traill. I don't think anyone is purposely fogging the issue. I think the concern, and you did address it when I asked you, and it is as part of phase one, the concern was that certain residents, because of where they lived, might displace other residents given the scarcity of the vaccine. You're indicating, and it's in the motion, that that is not the case. This is, correct me if I'm wrong, simply a matter of making things more convenient and possibly safer with the amendment, Wilmot Creek, and with the overall motion for broader seniors communities. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I think that is the concern, is that we do not want to see anyone displaced, and your motion's not doing that. So on the motion, and this is the part that was divided out, Madam Clerk.
On the motion moved by Councillor Trail, seconded by Councillor Anderson, beginning with Councillor Trail.
Yes.
Councillor Zwart,
Yes.
Councillor Anderson,
Yes.
Councillor Hooper,
Yes, sure.
Councillor Jones,
Yes.
Councillor Neal,
Yes.
Mayor Foster.
Yes.
That passes 7-0.
Okay. And on the balance of the motion, questions or comments? Councillor Trail.
Thank you. So again, I'm grateful to my colleague, Councillor Johns, who is, as we know, in healthcare, for providing some comments to me prior to the meeting, and I value those and I appreciate those. You know, I think at the end of the day, with respect to any concerns that this request might displace anybody else, the reason that this is simply a request is to give the I guess the local health network the ability, and they have of course the jurisdiction to determine whether or not they consider seniors and older adults living in lifestyle communities enough of a priority to include in phase 1. So again, I think that all they can do is say is no. And I appreciate that while residents at Wilmot Creek are not dining in shared dining halls, I still do think that, you know, based, as I said, I'm happy to read out the letter from Mr. and Mrs. Lee, who are 91 and 93. But, you know, they are exposed in the sense that they have healthcare workers daily coming into their house. And so they are still, I think, at a higher risk than, say, those 80-year-olds who are living at home, like, for example, my dad. So, you know, the reason for this motion is because these older adult lifestyle communities, and some of which actually do have shared housing, they are an apartment style. And so, again, I didn't want to be selfish. I don't think we should simply bring this forward just for Wilmot Creek. I think it's important that you know, there be a voice out there for all of the older adults who are living in these lifestyle communities. We do happen to have one of the largest in the province here in Ontario, in Clarington. But with that said, you know, it's simply a request, and obviously the province does have its rollout, but it also appears that, you know, residents living in these, oh no, I lost my internet. Oh dear.
You're still with us, Councillor Trail.
Hi. Okay. When did you lose me?
We didn't.
Oh, good. Okay. So, but yeah, I mean, I was wrapping up anyway. So it's just a request that older adult communities, the local health network, consider including them as part of the first phase of the rollout. I don't think any special consideration has actually been given to residents living in these communities with respect to it. I mean, it's not maybe first and foremost. Most people consider long-term care, which is fine. But I do think that it's important that we address this, because there are residents who are living in Wilmot Creek who, you know, again, are, I think, at a lot higher risk than because some of them are dependent on daily healthcare workers or personal support workers to be included. So anyway, it's simply a request. They can still, again, just say no.
All right, I've got Councillor Neal first, and then Councillor Jones. Councillor Neal.
Yeah, I just had some more grammatical stuff in the voluminous recitals. So the first paragraph, to the mover, should there be a comma after the phrase are over 80 years old? Should it say then comma?
So I actually see a comma there, Councillor Neal.
Okay, well, my printed one doesn't, so that's fine. Okay, good. The second paragraph, I'm just wondering what the phrase says, older adults live independently, but in aggregate. Is that the correct phraseology, aggregate?
Through the mayor, I'm happy to answer. So aggrego, aggregar, it's a good Latin word. So it's they are living together, coming there. So in a sense, what we're doing here is we're looking at the wording of the requirements for phase 1, which was living in congregate. So my argument is that although they're not technically living in one building together, they are still living amassed. So
do you like that phrase, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, it pertains through the mayor. It pertains to the requirements as set forth by the province that they have to be living in congregate. So.
Well, why don't you use the phrase in congregate?
Okay, well, I'll take that as a friendly amendment. I was just trying to bring some interest stylistically.
Aggregate is sort of what you take out of like mines and stuff.
Fair enough. All right, I'll consider that a friendly, and we can change it to living in congregate.
Okay. Next one is 1, 2, 3. Sorry, the third recital, it says putting them at a greater risk contracting COVID-19. I think you're missing a word there, of risk of contracting COVID-19. Do you agree that to the
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. I just assumed they'd make that. Thank you.
This is the problem when you have all these recitals. And then, okay, the next paragraph says, whereas 52% of old adult lifestyle communities, I think that should say older.
Older, through the chair.
Community residents in Ontario are individuals age 75 years old. I think that's a little verbose. I think it's just individuals aged 70 years and older. I don't think you would need the word old there, but it gets a little verbose, that's all.
That's fine.
So strike the word old.
Clerk will get that.
And then the next recital says, whereas older adults age 65 to 84 years old, I don't think you need the word older right after the whereas, it's all. And then it says account of the majority. I think you meant to say account for the majority. First line there. And then the last line, you say 93% more likely to die from COVID or with COVID?
I believe it should be from. All right.
And then the last line of the last recital, it says, but this does not include seniors living older adult. I think you're missing the word in, living in older adult lifestyle communities. Thank you.
With all of Councillor Neal's help, I'm sure this means he'll be supporting it now, right? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Councillor Jones?
Thanks. And I think I spoke to this when it came up at GG as well. And like I said, that I'm really happy that Councillor Trail is bringing things like this forward, because she's absolutely speaking up for her constituents, and I think that's great. I just can't support it because I have great faith actually in the vaccination plan that Durham Region has. I am one of those very, very fortunate people, and I was very honored to be able to get my first dose of vaccination last week, because I am a nurse practitioner working in long-term care right now. And if you could have seen like how amazing this vaccination center is at Lakeridge Health Oshawa, which actually today moved to a larger venue at the university. And even at Lakeridge Health Oshawa, they were moving hundreds of people through there in a day. I think they were vaccinating over 600 to 700 people a day. With this new facility, just the university facility, they're going to be vaccinating 2,400 people a day. That's how big this is. And it is very well orchestrated. Like, it was absolutely amazing. I didn't wait. I went in, I registered immediately. I went right to a physician who assessed me, gave me the vaccination. I immediately went to the waiting area. Very, very well organized. And I think that's why I'm not going to support this, because the plan that is in place right now is working really, really well. And I think we need to let those people go ahead with their plan because I think they know better than us. And just a couple points on the, there is a difference in my mind, being someone working with seniors, between adult communities and retirement homes. That the retirement homes, they are in much closer quarters. There are actually quite a few younger people even living in there as well. So it's not all 80s, 90-year-olds, which are retirement homes can have some younger people as well. But they're that much closer in a retirement home. These people are in their own homes, and there's really no difference between living in a home in Wilmot Creek and receiving home care to someone else living on my street and being a senior and receiving home care. They have healthcare workers coming in. Yes, it puts them at risk, but that is what the health department will be looking at when they are prioritizing who needs to be vaccinated first. And like I said, I was very, very impressed with how the centers were running. And I did speak with some of the people that are putting the plan in action last week. And they believe that when we get all these centers, the ones that have been approved across Durham region now, that we'll be vaccinating 4,000 to 4,500 residents of Durham a day very soon. We really just need to get the drug supply. And it's not really the process at this point. We are ready to vaccinate people. We just really need the drug. So I think that we're in very good hands right now. And like I said, I'm glad that Councillor Trail is bringing motions like this forward because she is speaking up for people. And maybe part of that is that it is so early that we haven't had a good communication plan out there. So people in the general public don't know what the plan is. But I think at this point, we do need to trust the health department. I think they're doing a great job right now, and we should leave it in their hands. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. I agree with most of what Councillor Jones says, but there's really no downside to this. If Dr. Kyle and his team believe it's not doable, they won't do it. They'll say no. But if it's doable, then, and there's an opportunity to get this done, so why not? So there's really no downside. Maybe Councillor Neal, since he's good at this stuff, want to put in, because as Councillor Jones alluded to, there are a lot of younger folks in Wilma Creek, so we wouldn't want them getting it ahead of anybody else. So maybe we should put, following the guidelines or the criteria set out by the province, who gets the vaccine first based on age group. Maybe we should put something like that in there. But doing this, there's really no downside. That they'll assess it and they'll decide whether it's doable or it's practical to do it, yes or no. So supporting this, I don't think it would take anything away from what the region health unit is trying to do anyhow. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I believe the reference to phase 1 deals with your concern about the age. Councillor Trail, you want to wrap up?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't want to belabor the point. I think, again, as I've mentioned, they can only just say no. And I do believe I had a student who assisted me on this. And so with respect to the statistics as well as the wording, I do believe phase 1 clarifies that they have to be over a certain age. But I'm certainly happy out of abundance of caution to make that amendment if it's friendly to the seconder that say under phase 1 in accordance with provincial health guidelines, just to ensure that any concerns regarding anybody under the requisite age for receiving the vaccine as part of phase 1 is not included. I'm happy to allay those concerns. Thank you, and I'll ask for a recorded vote. Thank you.
So why don't we take that as a friendly? I think the intent and the reality is the region's going to see this. If they can accommodate it, they will. If they can't, they won't. So that's good with you, Councillor Anderson. You seconded it, Councillor Trail.
Yes.
Those words friendly. All right. Madam Clerk,
yes.
Have you got that? All right. The clerk has that. We will We will have faith in the clerk. Anything further? Councillor Trail, you wrapped up, so I don't think I need to wrap up just what I said earlier. If nobody is being bumped, and that is the case here, they're following that. If it's a matter of convenience and perhaps increased safety for communities like this across the province, fine. If it can be accommodated here or elsewhere, fine. We'll hear if it's doable or not doable. But Councillor Jones does bring up excellent points that there is a plan in place. So far, that seems to be working. We'll see how that plan works when sufficient doses of the vaccine get here that we can really ramp things up. Councillor Trail, were you looking for a recorded vote on that?
Yes, please.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
So this is on the motion moved by Councillor Trail, seconded by Councillor Anderson. And this is for the balance, so that would be everything except for this highlighted blue section. And then with the friendly amendments to do with the grammatical and the adding in of the words in accordance with public health guidelines after phase 1 on that this paragraph here. So beginning with Councillor Trail.
Yes.
Councillor Zwart.
Yes.
Councillor Anderson.
Yes.
Councillor Hooper.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
No.
Councillor Neal.
Yes.
Mayor Foster.
Yes.
That passes 6-1.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This takes us to the bylaws. I'm guessing, Councillor Hooper, you have them. And if we can deal with item 15.12 separately, Councillor Neal has indicated a declaration on that. So 15.1 through 15.13 with the exception of 15.12. If you could give us that, please, sir. Councillor Hooper.
Sorry, I was muted. Sorry, I was talking away to myself and no one was listening. That leave be granted in introduced bylaws 2021-027 to 2021-038 said bylaws be approved.
Okay, and that's with the exception of
yes.
Item 21-037, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Trail, are you seconding that?
Sure, although I did just forget to take my hand down.
I thought I'd take advantage of it. That's fine. Yeah. So those moved, seconded, questions, comments? Call the question. All in support, please say yes.
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 Opposed, if any, please say no. And Councillor Neal, your declaration is noted on item 15.12. Councillor Hooper, will you give me that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do I have a seconder on that, please? Councillor Schwartz, thank you, Councillor Jones. On 15.12, questions, comments? Call the question. All in support, please say yes.
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 Opposed, if any, please say no. That is carried. We don't have any procedural notices of motion. Other business?
I have some questions, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Neal, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess to the clerk, I've always wondered how it's decided who's given what motion or what reports or whatever for council. I guess I brought up the example. Councillor Trail in 11 years has never graduated from moving the minutes. Like, how did she get designated as the official minute mover? And I just don't understand how that's done. So.
Through the chair, I think that's a fair question, and I think the short answer is that's the way it's been done for a very long time, at least prior to 2017. It was, I think, we sort of landed on whoever was doing it in general at that time, because the moving around and changing of it was getting confusing for people. They didn't know whether they were the mover or the seconder. And I think, you know, we all get used to Councillor Hooper moves bylaws, and we know that, and it makes the meeting go smoother. So I think that's my short answer. My longer answer is we are working on changes to the procedural bylaw, and I'm hoping to make these pre-written procedurally motions go away, and it will be behaving more like committee, although having the main things, like if you were moving an actual motion off the floor, it would have to be in writing, but the standard type of thing. So I'm looking at different ways that we can handle that for the procedural motion going ahead. So it wouldn't be a designated person. It would be the chair would call for, okay, who has a motion for this item?
Thank you. My other question is, I did bring up a number of issues. For example, I did specifically mention the agricultural uses policy, and I'm wondering when we're going to see that come back before committee or whatever. I guess that's maybe to Mr. McIver.
I actually see Mr. Allison's hand up on that. Mr. Allison?
Through the chair, I signed the report today. It'll be on the next GGC agenda.
Okay. And my last question again to Mr. McIver, and this is back to this uplands property that Clarington owns some property in the vicinity of uplands. So my question is, will that require specific council sign? Like, we declared it surplus and we said we would consider offers from the developer, but does that have to come back to council for actual approval? Like, I didn't see anything in the motion where this was designated or delegated to staff to basically just decide what was acceptable. Does that not require a council approval?
Through the chair, that's a very good question. I will have to investigate that.
Okay. It seems to me that it would require council approval because it didn't delegate, for example, staff to make the call about what was sufficient for consideration of that. And the other thing is, would it not require an actual appraisal? I thought whenever you were selling municipal land, you had to have it appraised. Or was that already done?
Through the chair, I'll add that to the points that I'll be researching.
Okay, I guess the concern I have is that we're getting adequate consideration for this property, that's all. And I thought we had better uses for it, possibly, but I would like to hear more about that, maybe at the General Government Committee meeting. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Hooper, you did have your hand up and it went down. And then I've got Councillor Anderson next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I could almost take my hand down. Councillor Neil touched on it or spoke about the mixed use, and with the fall, with the spring coming up and the summer coming up, I would like to see some movement in that. I believe Mr. Allison said he signed a report today. I have farmers calling me and saying, you know what, they're not even sure they can get farm workers in this year. So the mixed use and allowing those opportunities to do other things on the farm would really help them out, especially during this trying times, COVID times. So, and a lot when we are promoting outdoors and more outdoors. So I would like to see that coming forward. So thank you, Councillor Neil, for bringing that forward, because that's something I was going to speak about this evening. So thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Hooper.
No, I'll step aside, and my comment was just going to be if Councillor Neil wishes to move Councillor Trail to another portfolio, I gladly relinquish my duties as moving the bylaws at the end of the night. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hooper. I'm not sure that any of us are, that's the brightest thing on our radar screen right now, but all good. All right, Councillor Hooper, that would put you up with a confirming bylaw.
Maybe Councillor Trail would like to read it.
I don't think she has it, which would be a limiting factor.
Moved by myself, and I need a seconder. Recommendations contained in the General Government Committee
I
report
second.
for the 16th, 2021 be approved on consent.
All right. Questions or comments on the confirming bylaw?
Sorry, I had the wrong one. I'm sorry. The leave be granted under this bylaw 2021-039 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the municipality of Clarington at a regular meeting held on the first day of March 2021. Said bylaw be approved.
Perfect. Okay, Councillor Anderson, you're still seconding that, I assume.
I am.
Questions, comments? Call the question. All in support, please say yes.
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 Yeah.
Opposed, if any, please say no. Councillor Neal,
Motion to adjourn.
seconded by.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Call the question. All in support, please say yes.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
Opposed, if any, please say no. And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you. Stay safe.
Start telling me what they think they